On episode 327 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Dr. Ben Lynch and discuss his book, Dirty Genes, a breakthrough program to treat the root cause of illness and optimize your health. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/327. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Our guest today received his doctorate in naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University. He has supported thousands of clients and trained thousands of physicians and health professionals across the globe in using insights from epigenetics to optimize health. He is the founder of Seeking Health, a company that helps educate both the public and health professionals on how to overcome genetic dysfunction through diet, lifestyle, and supplements. I bring you Dr. Ben Lynch. So, Dr. Lynch, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Great to be here, Alan.
You know, your book, Dirty Genes, and I'll spell that for the folks that are listening in. It's a Genes, not the blue jeans that you would be washing because they're dirty jeans. And I'm sure that was somewhat of a play on words, but it was really interesting to me as I kind of got into the book that my eye color's the eye color it is because of my genes, my receding hairline when I was younger, and now I shaved my head. That's a part of what my genes were. So what we were taught in school about our genes and how they define who we are, it makes it seem like you can just kind of take them almost like they were predestination. Like this is who we're going to be. This is what we're going to be. But when it comes to our actual health, we have a lot of say in what our genes do or don't do for us.
100%. You know, I had this same exact philosophy as we all did back in the day. It's like, oh God, what was our family history? And it's like, oh, I'm next. And, now it's totally the opposite. I mean, it's as malleable as Play-Doh, almost. Nice new Play-Doh.
Yeah.
As we get older, our genes are about as malleable as old Play-Doh. But the good news is, we have different symptoms that come and go every day, right? I mean, some days we're more tired. Some days we're, full of energy. Other days we're grumpy and don't really want to meet anybody. Other days we want to go party hard. Well, our genes are responsive for that, but they're responding to the things that we are providing them. We're giving them either the tools that they want to use and perform, or we're giving them hindrances and roadblocks, and they're saying, dang it, now I can't get my job done. So, because that's all genes do. They just do work, and we just better give them the right tools to do it.
Yeah. This is not going to mean anything to anyone unless they owned a computer back in the 1980s. But if you owned a personal computer back in the 1980s, they had this series of dip switches in the back. And so you could turn them on and turn them off. And, when you first get your computer and you're trying to set it all up, it wasn't as simple as just, plug and play and some of the things we have today. You really had to actually almost have a computer science engineering degree to sit down and know how those dip switches worked. Our genes are in many ways kind of the same thing. That you can basically turn a gene on or turn a gene off. And the series of them all working together can just kind of create, for lack of a better word, a symphony.
Mm-hmm.
Make us very, very healthy or make us very, very sick. Can you kind of go through just a little brief description of what epigenetics is all about and what this on switch, off switch kind of stuff is all really working for?
Well, I've related, our bodies to a symphony before, where we are the conductor and the people, in the orchestra are the genes. Actually, they're not the genes. They're I think they're, I'm forgetting my analogy, how it worked. It was so good when I presented on it. But, you could have a great sounding orchestra or band, or you could have a horrible sounding band. And it could be because the instruments aren't tuned, and it could be because, the player isn't very good. So all the above. So epigenetics is simply how our genes are responding to the environment. And epi means above, and genetics is genetics. So it's kind of literally is above the genetics, and that doesn't really help you out that much. But what you need to know is genes are buried inside of your nucleus, which is buried inside your cell, and your cell contains all the stuff inside a cell membrane. So all that stuff is inside a cell membrane, and the cell membranes have these antennas or receptors, and they're constantly sensing their environment around them. And from that, there's there's hormones and neurotransmitters and vitamins and stuff flowing around. And so ultimately, when we eat something or see something or hear something or taste something or touch it, we are sending signals that get all the way down to the surface of the cell, which sends a signal down into the nucleus, which tells certain genes to turn on, certain genes to turn off, and they produce something because of that. When we touch a hot stove, we immediately go, ow, right? And that is a very, very quick response. It's a nerve response, but we also have uh, neurotransmitters in our brain fire because of that, where we get stressed out and we get a flood of norepinephrine probably. So, and that is all responsive from our environment and our perception of it.
Yeah. And so as we kind of look at these genes, of course, there are hundreds of thousands of them throughout our body, and they're all going to respond differently. Some are going to have very little effect, or very little as far as what we would notice effect, because they're doing something not benign, but something that's probably very important. But it's just not something that is going to overall. We're going to see this huge benefit. But there are seven, and you call them the super seven. Do you mind kind of going through those? Because as I was reading through them, I've the first one, the methylation gene. I'm very familiar with that one because everybody likes to talk about that one, and it's very important. So don't get me wrong, but there are six others that I think also, and this is I think where it really kind of connected for me is when I first got your book, and I said, okay, we're going to talk about genes, and I said and then I was almost immediately like, I should send him my 23andMe and say, okay, tell me, doc, what do I have to look forward to in the next 5, 10, 15, 50 years? But then as I got into the book, I'm like, okay, this is not something where you just do a 23andMe kind of thing and say, okay, this is everything. There's a lot more going on, but these seven kind of really are the defining ones that for most of us, if we can address these seven, we're gonna live a lot better.
A lot better. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why I picked these seven. And the biggest reason is because when you support these seven, they help clean up all the other genes in your body. So, you have to find genes that are A, well researched, and two, I had to have enough clinical experience with them. Three, you have to be able to support them through basic lifestyle habits and supplementation and environmental changes. And four, they had to make a huge impact in day-to-day life. Okay, so those are the reasons why I picked these seven. And there's approximately 19 to 20 some thousand genes in the human body, and there's millions of genetic variations. So there's a lot of things that you can choose from. But so I just picked genes in general. I didn't pick SNPs. I didn't pick mutations. I didn't pick variations. I picked the genes, period. Because if you understand how the genes work, that's what you need to understand. And so these super seven, their jobs are massively important. One gene, MTGFR, yeah, it's the master of methylation. And what that means is that it helps control over 200 other genes, which affects your ability to think, sleep, and support your cardiovascular system, support your cell membrane production. If your cell membranes are not healthy, it's like you not having skin on your body. It's that important. You've got to have healthy cell membranes or you're in trouble. Then you have COMT, and COMT's job is to help really process your estrogen levels, men too, and also helps process your dopamine and norepinephrine, and that's really important. And then also helps process your epinephrine, so your neurotransmitters. And then that can work faster or slower, and there's pros and cons to that. And there's another gene called DAO, And this one lives primarily in your digestive system, and its job is to break down histamine. And histamine is this compound that is very, very common in the population where it's elevated. And when you have high histamine, you know it. You've got seasonal allergies, you got itchy, rashy skin, you can't sleep, you're irritable, you get migraines, headaches, nosebleeds, rashes, urticaria, psoriasis, eczema, diarrhea, acid reflux, low blood pressure. These are really, really common problems. You get bit by a mosquito and you're super, super itchy. Exercise-induced asthma. I mean, that's majorly impacted by this gene, which is in your gut, and it's very easily dirtied. And then there's another one called MAO, and MAO also works for neurotransmitters. Really a big one for serotonin, which is kind of your feel-good, happy neurotransmitter like dopamine, but it also is needed for your melatonin for sleep. And then you have PEMT, which really no one talks about. And PEMT's job is to help make your cell membranes. It's a kind of a tag team with MTGFR. They all kind of tag team each other. Throughout the book, I interweave them and explain how and why. And it helps make your cell membranes. And it also helps make your bile, which is this product your liver makes, so you can absorb fats and kill bad bugs in your small intestine, hence small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So if you have SIBO or struggling with gut issues, PEMT is a factor that a lot of people need to start digging into more, and a lot of doctors don't know the connection there. And then we've got NOS3, and this one's super important, and it gets, if any of those other 6 genes are dirty, this NOS3 gene is dirty. So it's very, very sensitive. And if it gets dirty, you have neurological issues, mental issues, and you have cardiovascular issues. And cardiovascular disease is the number one killer for women. And there's so much emphasis on breast cancer, and there should be, but the number one killer actually in women is cardiovascular disease. And this gene has a big, big role to play here.
Okay. And then there was the GST.
Oh gosh, I forgot one.
That's all right. No, I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah. So glutathione, boy. So GST, GPX. It's kind of a tag team. These two. It's a Super 8, but that doesn't sound good. Super 7 sounds better.
Yeah. It has to be an odd number.
It's got to be an odd number for feng shui in the book. So we combined these two because I was just doing GST or GPX alone, and I could not write the chapter effectively. It's like, man, I kept intertwining them, and it's like, it doesn't work. So I combined them both. So glutathione is your body's number one antioxidant. So when you're fighting an infection, the cleanup crew is glutathione to clean up all the mess. If you're exercising and you have really bad post-workout soreness, glutathione levels are probably low, and you probably need to support those. When you have asthma, you are struggling with low glutathione. When you have exposures to chemicals in the environment, which we all do, especially formaldehyde, it's everywhere in our building materials and furniture. And when you're breathing formaldehyde and your clothing and your carpets, it's in your cabinets, it's everywhere, and your mattresses. When you're breathing this, you're using up your glutathione, and that gene is very, very easily dirtied. And if your glutathione levels get low, you're in trouble, period. All the other genes are dirty too.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that you did really, really well in the book was you took something that I would say might be one of the most complex topics in the health and fitness arena, and you made it relatively simple. I mean, there is a lot of interplay and a lot of complexity to this, but you did a really good job in the book, at least from my opinion, of making this attainable, making this something we can wrap our heads around. And I think, because we all like these very simple rules, it's if this, then that, health and fitness rules just seem to be kind of the rage. If you cut your calories, you're going to lose weight. If you, eat this supplement, then you're going to have this result. And so a lot of people are out looking for those very, very simple, what's something I can do? And one that typically comes up for me with a lot of my clients is what supplements should I be taking? And
Mhm.
I always have to caution them, like, look, let's start with the food. Let's get better food because that's going to give you 99% of what you need. And then if there's a reason, we can look at these other supplements as just that, the supplement. However, in particular with the first gene, the methylation gene, folate is a big deal, and we want to make sure that we're getting adequate folate. That's leafy greens and things like that. But we really struggle with our vegetables, so the simple thing is let's go pop one of these B9 pills. Let's get our vitamins that way, and so they get the multivitamin with the folic acid. And quite what I told you this before we started here was I had to put the book down because I got angry. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I'm really,
I put it down. I'm like I can't believe that the vitamin manufacturers are allowed to feed us this stuff. And so, can you take just a moment to explain folate, why it's important, and actually what the difference is between that and folic acid?
yeah. You shared a lot of great points here. And first of all, I'm glad you got irritated and pissed off. And second, I'm sorry that you did that because I dirtied your jeans from doing that. But
I know.
yeah, but folate is one of those things that isn't very sexy. You eat a salad, it's not like biting into a big, dark, decadent chocolate cake and getting that sugar rush. Eating a salad is like, oh, it tastes good, but it's not exciting to make. It's not exciting to eat, but it's super, super important and super fundamental. And look, one of the things that we forget all the time is we are animals. We are animals. We should be outside like all the other ones that are out there. Every other animal is outside and they are grazing, they are foraging, they are harvesting, they are storing. And we don't. We eat processed foods that fill the void and tickle our neurotransmitters because food scientists get it right. And well, to do wrong. But folic acid is a synthetic form of folate. And what you need to know about folate is it comes from, I think it's Latin, folar, if I'm not mistaken, or folium, and means leaf, foliage. So it's pretty simple that folate comes from green leafy vegetables. The darker the green, the more folate typically. It also is found in liver and some other foods as well, like beans, but it's not very absorbable. So you can get folate from food. So if you're reading the book and you're like, oh, I have MTHFR, you just found out you have an MTHFR variant, and you're told to go out and run out and take a supplement, no, just eat more leafy greens because leafy greens is helping you out. What you do need to do is stop taking a supplement, more importantly, and that is folic acid, as is what irritated you so much from reading that in the book. Folic acid is one of those things that was literally invented by humans because we decided geniusly to have basically bread flour stripped of all nutrients so it'll live on the shelf longer. It's great for business, it's great for convenience, but you are literally eating dust without nutritional value. And we had a lot of issues with that from history. And they figured out, it's like, oh wow, we're actually getting a lot of birth defects. We're having a lot of infertility issues. So we have to fix this problem. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to not strip the nutrients anymore from the grains, we're going to synthesize a nutrient that looks very close to the body's natural form of folate. And they did a great job. It's so close to the natural form of folate that is recognized by the human body that it does get well absorbed and it does bind to folate receptors and it does get bound to the transportation systems in our bodies to carry the folate around. The problem is it does it too well and it sticks to them. And it's like, if you have honey on your fingers and you're trying to type on your keyboard, or you've ever made dough and you need to add more flour on the counter, otherwise it's sticking. So this synthetic folic acid really binds strongly to your receptors and also your folate binding proteins. And what does all that mean? Well, let me give you an example. If you have a car key or your house, let's say house key, and you insert the key into your door, and you unlock it and you go inside and you try to take your key out, and you do, and you put it on the key hooks right inside your door, you're good. But if you go to later on, you go and you stick your key in the door, you turn it, you unlock it, and you try to take the key out again, you can't. It's stuck. Okay. So folic acid is like the key, and the doorknob is the receptor or the folate binding protein. And you need to have that folate dock and get off, dock and get off. But what happens is that folic acid has no human physiological benefit at all in the human body. It has to be transformed into something that's usable, and that requires genes. And the genes in the human beings does not work fast to process folic acid. It's extremely slow, very, very slow. All the research that was done on folic acid was done on rats. And rats can process folic acid, no problem. Humans, on the other hand, very, very slow. And there are genetic variations in this gene called DHFR that are known to be very, very slow at processing folic acid. So, and they're very common actually. So if you're an individual and you're consuming folic acid and you have symptoms, well, the first thing you need to do is stop taking the folic acid. It's literally gumming up your genetics and your whole body. It's going to affect your neurotransmission. It's going to affect your cardiovascular system. It's going to affect your detoxification. It's going to affect your hair, your nails, your blood cells, white blood cells, red blood cells. It's going to affect all that. So you get rid of it. The good thing is it'll get out of your system in about, I would say, 2 weeks. Your genes will get rid of it, and it'll be gone. And the other good thing is folic acid is typically found in processed foods. So if you limit your processed food intake, you're also reducing your folic acid intake. So it's kind of a double benefit there by avoiding folic acid.
Yeah, and like I said, that's kind of what really frustrated me was, okay, they're selling you a fortified breakfast cereal, and it
Yes.
has all the vitamins and minerals that a growing body needs, and now we're eating that or we're feeding that to our children.
Oh,
We're taking our supplements because that's what we think we're supposed to do, and really, it's not doing us any good, and in fact, actually harming us. So that was really what frustrated me was just
yeah.
the whole concept of we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to fix our health, and we think that the companies are out there providing us a tool to help us do that, but that tool is actually the key that sticks, and then therefore we're not actually improving our health, and in many cases we're actually making it worse.
Yeah, let me drive this point home with the final blow. And the final blow is standard medicine knows that folic acid is bad. It does. And you're like, no. Well, when you dig hard enough in the research looking for reasons why folic acid is bad, you find it. But very, very few people are actively looking at why folic acid is bad. And I work hard on that.
Yeah.
And because I'm vehemently against it. In fact, I bought the domain folicacid.com for a lot of money to make this a public health issue. So there's a lot of people that Google folic acid. So if I can make a website, folicacid.com, and I'm going to be garnering a lot of attention and making a lot of noise with the help of social media. But the point I want to make is that folic acid is a known contraindication, meaning do not do it, for a condition called cerebral folate deficiency. And cerebral folate deficiency, what that means is you have low levels of folate in your brain. You can have all the folate you want in your blood, but you have to get the folate into your brain. If you don't, you have seizures. You have epileptic seizures. You have neurotransmitter deficiencies. You're not making your dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, serotonin. You're not generating that stuff. And so big issues happen. And so when you have the condition of cerebral folate deficiency, which a lot of autistic children have, a lot of them do, then folic acid is a known contraindication when that occurs because they know that it's going to cause further folate deficiency in the brain. So you're supposed to use a more active form of folate called folinic acid or methylfolate, and everything is merry. And it's pretty simple and pretty cheap.
Cool. Now, in your book, you have the 4 week clean gene protocol. And I like this because it like I said, it takes something that's relatively complex and it applies lifestyle choices for the vast majority of us to make sure that we are maximizing our opportunity with our genes. And while there is a quiz in the book where you can kind of go through and ask yourself some questions, and it's not just physical, there's some mood based things in there as well, or just tendencies like, if you have a tendency to be a little bit more focused or single minded or a little bit more, out there with the ADHD kind of stuff, those are all kind of indicators of your genes. But you put together a very simple protocol for us to go through over the course of 4 weeks. Do you mind taking some time to walk us through that protocol?
Yeah, for sure. And I equate this to general cleanup. So, if you tell your kid to clean the room, or you're going to clean the kitchen, you're not going to clean the kitchen by unloading all the stuff into your cabinets and dusting the back of your one cabinet, right? That's like something you do once every few years. But when people get their genetic test done, that's kind of what they're doing. That's how they're cleaning their genes. They're targeting one tiny little area that's pretty insignificant and really doesn't make any difference. When you want to clean your kitchen, you start with the dishes. They're glaring, they're on the counter. You clean those, you put them away. Now you've got a huge improvement already. Then you tackle the counters. Counters are full of stuff. You put them away, put them in the cabinets, put it in the fridge. You throw the old stuff away, you wipe the counters. Wow, now your kitchen's looking really good. In fact, you can walk away. So the biggest things I like to hit are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact. And you already hit it, Alan. Yeah, that's food. Genes do work. And if you give your genes healthy food, they can do healthy work. If you give your genes bad food, now you're taking the genes that want to make your dopamine and norepinephrine, but they can't, because now you've eaten all this garbage food that is telling all these other genes to get to work and try to get it out of your system. And now you're dealing with high blood sugar, and now you got inflammation, and now you've got yeast overgrowth, and all these other genes are triggering because of that. And instead, if you had a salad with a bit of protein and a bit of fat, that would have been all nourishing. Genes would have been firing, but they would have been healthy firing. So you got to start with healthy food. And you also have to start with basically understanding that breathing is an automatic thing, the autonomic nervous system. But if you are not breathing properly, then your genes are very, very dirty. And a simple way to understand if you're mouth breathing or breathing poorly is if your hands are routinely cold. If your hands are always cold, or your feet are always cold, or both, then you're not breathing right. It's that simple. If you change your breathing, you can warm up your hands and your feet very quickly. I mean, within minutes. I do it in conferences all the time with people. Whose hands are cold? Mine. 20% or 30% of the hands go up. And we'll follow a certain exercise of closing their mouth, breathing through their nose slowly, out through their nose slowly. And then after a couple minutes, I say, whose hands are much warmer? And about 50% of those people will already have a huge improvement. So breathing is super, super important. So food, breathing, hydration. If you're 1% dehydrated, just 1%, you're becoming not only more fatigued, but you're becoming dumber. And water, a lot of people don't understand this, Alan, that if food provides energy, and it also provides the necessary building blocks for things in our body, which our genes use to make things. But water is needed in order to make our energy work. It's a conductor. And so it has to be present. So if you're dehydrated, your energy levels literally decline. And just yesterday, I walked into the house and I was like, God, I'm tired. And I opened the fridge looking for something to give me a perk up. I look at my supplement shelf looking for something to perk me up. And I was like, no, it's not it. It's not it. And so I reached for a glass. I filled it up with water. I drank a glass of water. Bam. Within seconds, I got my energy back. And I was like, thank you. That was it. So you got to really tune into yourself and understand and really figure out why you're actually tired. And for me, I kind of resonate and I look at things and I will pretend that I've taken that supplement or I've eaten that food. And then I look at myself about 20, 30 minutes in the future and see if it was going to help me. It sounds kind of weird, but it really, really helps. But hydration is a huge one, and you've got to hydrate with filtered water, not chlorinated water. So you've got to clean up your environment because you breathe 11,000 liters of air every day. So you've got to make sure that your air is clean. And that's what I call the ABCs of clean genes. A is avoidance. So it's avoidance of chemicals is number one, because if you breathe in a chemical, your genes are dirty. And B is breathe. If you're not breathing, you've got issues. So, those are the biggest, probably the two biggest ones. And then C is chew. A lot of people don't chew their food, and our stomach doesn't have teeth. And a lot of people are stressed out. And if you're stressed out, you're not secreting stomach acid. And if you're not secreting stomach acid, you're not breaking the food down. Food contains what? Well, if you're eating healthy food, it contains nutrients that your body uses so your genes can work and build things. But if you're stressed out, chewing quickly, and eating garbage food, your genes aren't getting any benefit. So, food is primary, and secondary, I would say, well, breathing is primary. Food would be secondary, and tertiary, I would say your environment, and I would say air and water equally important. Because if you're hydrating with dirty, polluted water out of the tap, no, don't. And I know it sounds not like these are big changes, and they're not, which is the cool thing, but the impact you will feel is massive. And there was a couple just recently shared in our Dirty Genes Facebook group. She said, my husband is a building contractor. He was actually a plumber, and he was reading Dirty Genes, which was cool. And he went up to his wife and said, you know what? I'm reading this book, and what it's basically telling me is that my environment is super, super important. And if I don't clean up my environment, my genes are going to be dealing with all these chemicals and not working on my health. And he's absolutely right. So he started changing his furnace filters, making them better. Got a water filter. He ripped out carpets. He ripped out flooring. He ripped out all sorts of stuff. And they immediately noticed benefits. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's two things that really kind of resonate with me, with what you just really talked about. Was the first being kind of really having this self-awareness. So slowing down just a little bit to say what makes me feel which way. So you talked about kind of looking into the future to get a view of where you're going to be or how that was going to affect you. But you can only do that because you've got this experience where you actually paid attention. When I drank water, I immediately felt energized. When I had this supplement, this is how it affected me. So you've built sort of a user manual for yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's what I really liked about this book, was that it gave us some tools to say, okay, it is probably even more complex than rocket science. But that said, from a lifestyle perspective, there are really basic, simple things we can do, and it is the nutrition, it's our environment, it's being sure that we're breathing, and then kind of wrapping that all around to that self-awareness. And you put that all together, and you now have a manual. And the 4 weeks that you have here for the Clean Gene, I think when people sit down and actually go through that 4 weeks, they're going to feel so much better that it's not just going to be 4 weeks.
No, and that's the other point of it, because my publisher says, Ben, you need to make a 30-day or a 28-day program for people. I just laughed when they told me that on the phone. I said, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, we need a 30-day program." I said, "This is a program to help people clean their genes for the rest of their life. This is not a 30-day thing." She goes, "Well, it needs to be 30 days." I'm like, so I go back and forth. And I said, "Look, some people are going to need 2 weeks. Some people are going to need no days because they've already been living it. Other people are going to need to be doing it for 6 months before they move on to the next section." So you do it for as long as you need to, and you do it in a way that is not overwhelming to you. There's a lot of people that fear change or resist change or are perfectionists or they have to do all of them at once. And I really want people to welcome the concept that it is okay to pick up the book Dirty Genes, read it, and when you learn something and you say, wow, that breathing thing really resonated with me, put the book down. Let it sit there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and focus on your breathing. When you feel better, your hands are warm again, you're feeling, pick up the book, start rereading where you left off. It's like, wow, that chewing thing. Oh, yeah, that I definitely need to work on that. Put the book down. Put it down. I almost dedicated the book to, it was going to say something along the lines, this book is dedicated to those who read and actually implement what they read. Because you can read all you want, but if you don't actually implement, no book is going to serve you. And you're going to be complaining that the book didn't help you out. And Dirty Genes is a manual for you. As you pointed out, Alan, I do have a huge personal reservoir of, yes, I know the supplements can do this. It's going to make me feel good if I do it, take it then. It's going to make me feel worse if I take it when I feel these symptoms. And so I take a mental kind of I file everything away mentally about how everything makes me feel. And I remember when I was in the grocery store with my boys years ago, and I got 3 boys, and they're 15, 13, and 10. And we're walking through the store, and we walked by the donuts, and they were just baked. And they're like, God, those look good. I said, Dad, how do you walk by those without any issue? I said, because I put myself 1 hour into the future after I've enjoyed them, and I realize that they're going to make me super tired, have a headache. They're going to make the yeast overgrow. I'm going to be battling that for probably 2 months, and I'm just not going to feel good. So I don't eat it. I move past the impulse and think what it's actually going to do to me. And then I was like, heck no, I don't want it.
Yeah, that's a cost benefit, and we don't always make the right decision for ourselves, but there's a
No.
cost benefit to pretty much everything we do. And so, having and taking the time, and like I said, I can't stress that enough. The self awareness to say, I know that this is not going to do for me what I need to have done. This is not going to make me better tomorrow. It might make me feel better for 5 minutes. I'll enjoy it. But then I know the repercussions of what my next day, 2 days, 2 weeks, or in some cases even longer, I know what that's going to mean to me.
Yeah. And sometimes I will walk by a bag of chips or a 4-pack of, alcoholic apple cider. And once in a blue moon, I will pick it up and I will take it home. And I'll say, I know the repercussions, but the heck with it. I'm going to enjoy it. And if you want to stay up late and watch a movie, just know how you're going to feel tomorrow, and don't blame others for your bad day. You got to make some adjustments. And so if I eat chips and garbage, which I do at times, I will compensate the next day by doing something different to make it up. And if it's not the next day, it's pretty soon thereafter.
Yeah.
So, I clean myself up after.
And it's just like your kitchen. You clean it once, you're going to use it again. You're going to need to clean it again. So this is just a function of something relatively simple that we can incorporate in our lives to improve our health overall. And then we have these tools. They're in our tool chest. There's something we can pull out when we know, okay, I really shouldn't have had that bag of M&Ms. So I know I'm going to feel crappy because of the carbs and all the other stuff. And I know why I wanted them. I know that I am going to enjoy them when I have them. But now I've got to make that up and clean myself up with the breathing, with the water, and just finding good quality food that's going to actually nourish me because I didn't really get any nourishment out of that snack.
That's right. You actually went backwards in your health.
Yeah.
As well. My kids, I'll let them eat stuff that they shouldn't eat, and someday they're going to be adults and living on their own, and I want them to feel the repercussion of eating fast food. I want them to feel the repercussions of chowing on a bunch of garbage and getting acne all over their face, or getting symptoms of congested noses or irritable or depressed from it. And I let them know how that's happening, why it's happening, how to clean it up, why they gravitated towards it. And so they're getting it.
Yeah.
And, they make their own choices. And, sometimes it's hard for me to see them make those choices. But at the end of the day, they're going to be not living under my roof, and they're going to make grown decisions as a kid, as an adult, and I'm not going to be there for them. So they need to know now how they're going to feel if they eat garbage, and they're already experiencing it. So, they're still kids. They bounce back faster than adults do, but they still experience repercussions. Performance in soccer games goes down, their moods get altered, their noses get messed up, their faces get messed up. They do worse in school. So you gotta let them learn and experience it. I can't throw down. And I used to do the opposite. I used to be super strict about all this stuff, and I'm still pretty strict, but I will let them go for it. And it's been great that I've done that.
Yeah. Well, you can give each of them a signed copy of Dirty Jeans, and they,
Yeah.
they can learn for themselves. So, Dr. Lynch, this has been a wonderful conversation. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing, more about the book, and get to that Facebook group that you talked about, where would you like for me to send them?
Well, I think the best thing to do, Alan, is just say, hey, investing in a book, it's only like $19 now, or $17 on Amazon, which is very, very affordable for what you get. I was talking with a colleague of mine who's like, God, we should charge thousands for our books. Can't believe it's only like $17.
All the research and all the time that goes into writing a book. Yes, I completely agree
Yeah,
with you
but
there.
it's great that it's so available, and so that's the cool thing. So I really highly recommend people grab the book wherever it's sold. I mean, it's sold everywhere, and it's being translated in 11 languages. But if you don't want to invest the money in the book right now, go to drbenlynch.com, so drbenlynch.com, and there's a free download of a bonus chapter that I really wanted to be included in the book, but book is already 300 and some pages, and the publisher said no, make it a bonus chapter, give it away. And it's the ABCs of clean jeans. Every letter is something that you can do. We already talked about avoid, breathe, and chew. I forget what D was, and E, and all these other ones. But it's a very, very good chapter. It'll give you a great understanding of the writing style, the simplicity, the tone, the empowerment, and God, just reading that might be enough to get you started. It's kind of like the Soak and Scrub 4-week protocol for free for you. So go to drbenlynch.com, download that. And then when you're on drbenlynch.com, there's a bunch of articles there. And every Thursday, in fact, I just got done with one today at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. I do a Facebook Live for about an hour on a specific topic, and they're all recorded. And so I answer people's questions, and they're all stay there for free. So we have tons of video on Dr. Ben Lynch Facebook page that are freely available, and a lot of great questions, a lot of comments. We have thousands and thousands of views on each one, and they're a lot of fun. And I really walk through people's specific questions and really tell them why and how their body is working. Because if you understand how your body works and why it's important to breathe properly and why it's important to eat certain foods and avoid certain foods at certain times, even healthy food you need to avoid at certain times, and I explain why, it will really make sense to you, especially when you apply it and you're aware of the changes. Like, for example, somebody posted just yesterday, I can't fall asleep at night. I had dinner at 8:30 and it was a big protein dinner and I had a protein shake. Why can't I fall asleep? I was like, well, one, you ate late, and two, you had a lot of protein, and protein stimulates histamine and also dopamine, and those are two alert causing compounds. And so that's what happens on these Facebook pages, and it's a great, great community.
Cool. Well, you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/327, and I'll make sure to have links to both the Facebook group and to Dr. Lynch's website and to the book. So, Dr. Lynch, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
My pleasure. And now that I'm 40 plus, I got to tune into some of your podcasts.
Outstanding. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Dr. Lynch. I really enjoyed the conversation. Epigenetics is a very complex topic, but he does a really good job in his book, Dirty Genes, on explaining how all this stuff kind of works in a way that's applicable. So I really enjoyed the book, and I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did too. I'm recording this on the 4th of July. That means for me, from a scheduling perspective, I'm way behind. But that's cool. That's cool. I'll get caught up. The show notes might not be there when you're first listening to this, but they'll be out there soon. I promise. I'm putting a lot of pressure on the people behind me, I know. But I needed to get a few things done for Keto Fest and for the book. So this has been a really big push week for me, and I'm glad to have a day off. And that's kind of where I wanted to start this discussion today. It is the 4th of July, which in the United States is a pretty big holiday for a lot of us. It's a time for us to be with friends and family. I'm pretty excited. One of my neighbors has decided to host a little pop-up party for the 4th of July. Nothing famous, nothing fancy, just, let's get together as a neighborhood and friends and hang out. And I'm pretty excited about that. In the Blue Zones, which was a book by Dan Brutner, but it was brought up by Michel Poulain, and it's basically a concept of where people live and how they can, based on where they live and how they're living their lives, they live longer. And one of the big aspects of that was social structure, having friends, having family, and really being interconnected with your community, with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family. That was also brought up by Dr. John and Jane Day in their book, The Longevity Plan. And I had Dr. John Day on the show for episode 272. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/272 and listen to the Longevity Plan discussion we had. Again, a very fascinating study that he did in a small location in China that's known as Longevity Village. And so really worth a listen. After you get through with this episode, you can just go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/272 and listen to Dr. Day. But that said, do take time when you get time to really enjoy time with your family and your friends. The life is precious, and a big part of the way that I am now kind of structuring the way I look at things is what I call wellness. And in my definition of wellness, that's going to include, of course, health, fitness, which is where most people stop. But I want you to add happiness to that definition, because when you have all three of those, you really have all three legs of the stool that make you feel and be well. And so make sure you're making happiness a big priority in your life, and it'll go a long way towards your wellness journey. I did talk about Keto Fest. I'll be a presenter at Keto Fest, not just a trainer, which means yesterday I did plans for all of my group training. I've got that done, and I'm about halfway through with putting together my slides for my presentation. It's in PowerPoint. I prefer Keynote, but the host of the event, he is a big Microsoft guy, so I'm pretty sure he's going to only want to run Microsoft equipment, and that means that I've got to do it in PowerPoint. So a little bit of a learning curve to get back into PowerPoint. It's been a long time since I've done a presentation, a live speaking engagement. In fact, the last one I did was on how to put together a fraud investigation. This one should be a lot more interesting than that, as I am talking about wellness and keto and how those things really do kind of give you an opportunity. Because the ketosis that you're in a lot of times with the extra energy, I really do think that can be a superpower for people that want to go that route. They want to eat that way. And when they have that extra energy, I want to help them focus it and make it something special. So I'm really, really excited about my talk and how that's coming along. Keto Fest is in New London, Connecticut, from the 22nd of July to the 23rd. Now, I'm planning to be in that area. If you're anywhere up in the Northeast, anywhere close to New London, Connecticut, and you want to meet up, please do send me an email. It's alan@40plusfitnesspodcast.com. We can sit down and we can have a coffee. We can have a drink afterwards. After in the evening, whatever you want to do. If you can make it down there and want to spend some time, if you can go to Keto Fest, that's even better. Again, it's in New London, Connecticut, July 22nd to 20th to the 22nd. You can go to ketofest.com and learn more there. They've got it all kind of broken down. You can buy tickets to the different things. I'll be arriving in, I think, on the 19th. Probably be there in the evening. I don't think they have anything planned. So again, if you want to catch up for a drink or something, or a coffee in the morning, please, by all means, do reach out. I would like to meet with you. And then finally, I do want to talk about the personal training. Now, I've talked to a few people lately, and it's kind of interesting. I was in a mastermind meeting, so we're not talking about fitness; we're talking about our businesses. And one of the concepts that came up was, how when someone's trying to teach you how to do an online business, most of the people that were successful at that, they're actually just selling to other people that want to run online businesses. So it's kind of this racket of, I know how to run an online business. I'll teach you how to run an online business. And that's how they make their money. Very few of them make money doing anything else. And so we were kind of talking about that. And one of the theories I have is that people who are in business know that you have to spend money to make money. And that's a kind of a known concept that I think anyone would generally agree with. You can't start a business from nothing, really, and expect. You need some seed capital, you need some money, some investment to make things start. I'm not saying that's completely necessarily true in health and fitness. But I can say if you want to accelerate your health and fitness journey, you do need to make an investment. You need to make an investment of time. You need to make an investment of effort. And in many cases, yes, you do need to make an investment in money so that you can have the accountability, so you can have the structure, so you cannot make the mistakes that a lot of other people are making. And so you can be the most efficient and effective at your health and fitness work. So you're getting the most out of your time and effort. If you're on the fence about hiring a coach, please do give me a call. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/talk. That's going to put a time on my calendar. You can give me your phone number. You can give me your email. I'll send you a conference call. I prefer if you just go ahead and give me your email, your phone number, so I can call you at the prescribed time. But go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/talk. Get a little slot with me, and we can just talk through what your issues are. What's going on with you right now? What can I do to help you? Or maybe I can't help you, but we can kind of diagnose that right there. We can figure that out. Am I the right coach for you? Is this the right time for you? I'm telling you, there's never a bad time to start. There's only a time when you look back and wish you had started earlier. So I do hope that you're thinking about this, that you're considering this. And if you're on that fence, if you're right there saying, maybe I do want to make this investment, maybe this would help me, let's talk. And we can figure out if I'm the right coach for you right then and there. So again, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/talk. Thank you. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Tom King and discuss his book, Guy Gone Keto. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.